welcome everyone. This is the Hidden Dimensions podcast. Welcome back. And my name is Dan Richard. I'm your co-host, and I'm also here with Karthik Umapathy. Karthik, how are you?
My name is Dr. Karthik Umapathy, Associate Professor in School of Computing and Co-Director for FOIDA Data Science Social Good, and co-host for this Hidden Dimension podcast. Welcome everyone for episode 4.
Yeah. So on this episode, we're going to be talking about data science, leading data science, and what does that have to do with like working with nonprofits and supporting our community. And so we have our guest here today, the principals and co-founders of NLP Logix. We have Ted Willich. He is the CEO of NLP Logix, and Matt Berseth, who is the CIO, and you all just are just a great team. So welcome. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Great. All right. So we want to get started. We want to talk a little bit about just how NLP Logix got started. You know, when I was putting this together, I was thinking, it was like, wow, I should like joke and say, oh, it's been a decade. And then I realized, oh, it's been about a decade. So how did all this how did NLP Logix as a technology company, as an AI company, how did all that get started?
So thanks, Dan and Karthik, for having us on the show. Mm-hmm. So I'm Ted Willich, co-founder and CEO at NLP Logix. My background, grew up in California, went to college, history major, and then did a little time in the Marine Corps, and then went off and started a company, got into the business world, and started a company that ultimately Matt and I started working at. And then we left there and started Logix, and I'm sure we'll talk more about that later.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, and so Matt Berseth, co-founder with Ted and the CIO of NLP Logix. My background is, born and raised up in Fargo, North Dakota, so a long ways from Northeast Florida. Grew up, small town, small farm, small schools. Got very fortunate. Microsoft, actually not at the time. Great Plains was the company at the time, but Microsoft was in the process of acquiring them. And great I look back of just like lucky opportunities. Right place, right time. Found my way in as an internship, computer science student, and then joined them full time. Found out very quickly, I tell this to Ted all the time, very quickly that big companies were not for me at all. So left Microsoft probably about 20 years ago, came down south here, and met Ted at the previous business, and then started Logix 13 years ago. So just over a decade. We're in our teens now, right? 13.
Yeah, we put a decade astern 3 years ago. And I remember when Matt and I were talking, Matt's like, I've never worked at a place more than 2 or 3 years. And I said, well, if this happens on this one, that's on you.
That's very true. Now, origin stories, though, I think Ted does. I love Ted's origin story. I think the intro and the company does a great job.
Yeah, let's do quickly that. So when did you guys meet together in Jacksonville?
We met together a year before your son was born, before Jack was born. So he's in his teens now.
Yeah, he's 14.
14.
Oh,
so
okay.
15 years ago at the previous company.
Only 1 or 2 years before you started. Yeah.
Yep. This was at the previous company, and at that company we were doing a lot of machine learning for internal consumption. We had a gentleman who's a brilliant guy. Unfortunately, was killed in a car crash. Named David Darnell, who was just amazing human being. He was great. He actually recruited Matt to come to us, and David set up the data science team. And I remember David one day saying, because I was saying, "Hey, Dave, you're a really smart dude and everything." He said, "The Berseth guy, he's a real, he's got it." Okay. And so he started kind of handing his duties off to Matt, and so that's when where I got to know Matt. And I was responsible for the sales and operations at the other company, and we would go, and I'm not technical, so I needed someone to interpret. And Matt was really, really good at being able to interpret complex things and break it down to where the customer could understand it, to where they'd want to pay for it.
Right.
So that's really where we first met. And then when we decided to start the company, the original business plan was to use natural language processing, henceforth the name NLP Logix, to integrate disparate health IT silos, and that's how we kicked off the company. It was me, myself.
Yeah.
It was me, Matt. I count myself 3 times.
Yes, of course. Of course.
It was me.
It makes complete sense, Ted. It really does.
Exactly. Well, I have 3 or 4 personalities, but so it was me, Matt, and Robert Marsh, who started the company,
Right.
and that was the original business plan. And then about 2 or 3 months after we started the company, Matt started competing in data science contests, hosted
Yeah.
on Kaggle. He started winning, and then we said, well, look at all these companies putting up all this data across all these industries. And in the end, what they would get from the contest could never see the light of day, could never be put into production. So we said, well, let's focus on building good models or good applications and solve business problems, and we'll go that way. And so we did. We raised a small amount of capital just from some local angel investors and some others outside of the area. And we got to work, and just really one customer at a time have been building the company to where it is today.
Yeah.
Fairly sizable.
Yeah, and actually, Karthik and I, when we first started DSSG, we were saying, okay, we need industry professionals, right, to really give us some advice and give our students advice. And he knew of NLP Logix, and he was like, these guys are awesome. They're winning competitions. Like this. This is really happening here in Jacksonville, and it really gave us a spark to say, you know what, we can do this data science for social good program in Jacksonville because we've got the industry, we've got the partners here that can really help us and support us, and you all have been a huge part of that.
How long ago was that?
We talked to you in 2016 about DSSG.
Yeah.
I can't do the math. Is that like 8 years?
Yeah, about 8 years. Yeah, about 8 years.
Nailed that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. But we talked to you, I guess, in fall semester, November-ish in 2016. And then we started the summer internship in the summer 2017.
That's right.
Yeah. We talked with you guys and then Ari from Jaguars. Yeah. But we started with both of you. So, let's a little bit dive more into, for the data science AI question. So, as Ted was mentioning, right, you guys started in 2011, right? Data science as a term was coined only later, end of 2009, 10, right? So, very, very new, right? I don't think there was any company that was pure data science at the moment, even in California area, Silicon area. But you guys were starting in in Jacksonville. So can you guys talk more about that experience doing something very, very fresh idea that even, again, business people were also not thinking about it. Academically, also people were not thinking about it. It's very, very new thing, and it's pretty much it is in your brain and you're getting it out into the grounds. How was it? What was the pains that you guys have to go through to prove now this is a business to do?
Pain was great. We knew it could work. We knew that there was business value there just from the previous company. And I was thinking about this the other day. One of the first projects we did was taking very, very large data sets from Thomson Reuters. They were Medicare, Medicaid claims. Did you want to talk a little bit about that, Matt? That's going in the Wayback Machine.
It is. Yeah, and I think you're right on it in that, we were doing it at the previous company on a very large data set. We were seeing the value from it. And, you go, like you said, you go back to that time in the world, data science wasn't even a term, or if it was, no one was using it. I would say, a term like machine learning was like intimidating. You say somebody you need their data so you can do some machine learning. They're looking at you like you're crazy. Yeah. So I think that the challenges were, we saw the value. We knew, to us, I wouldn't say it was obvious, but it was clear that everybody was working hard at that time just to collect the data. Big data was a term at that time, right?
Yeah, big data. Yeah.
We were all worried, how do we store it? How do we whatever? We kind of had a head start on, hey, we got the data. Now, how do we leverage it, and do smart things with it? And that wasn't easy. And, we laugh because it was probably around 2016 where it was IBM Watson that they bought the commercials at the Masters. And at that point, it was like, okay, machine learning, people are starting to see, that there's business. Wall Street Journal started doing a bunch of stuff. So I think the challenge, was just getting customers to understand that their data that they're sitting on, they can get a heck of a lot more out of it. They've got it stored, but they got to figure out how to leverage it. And AI or machine learning at the time, AI now was going to be the tool that they were going to have to be using.
Yeah, and that's kind of how we got our first big break once we started NLP Logix. Was and it was a Jacksonville Business Journal wrote an article about us, and it said data mining for the masses. We still have it. We framed it, and a guy by the name, actually the Northeast Health Planning Council, Northeast Florida Health Planning Council saw it and said, predicting readmissions for hospitals is a big deal right now. Can you guys do that? And we're like, we were doing that before at the old company. And we were like, we could do that. So we went and we made a pitch. I'll never forget it. We were at UF, they called it Shands at the time, at UF. And we're in this big room, conference room, and there's like doctors there. They got like coats on and everything. And it's like, and then Matt probably had his Fruit Loop shirt on. And so it was me and Matt, and we were talking about how we could do this, predicting for readmits. And we went through the whole thing, did the pitch, and then the meeting was over. And all of a sudden, this guy jumps up, and he says, "You two are coming with me." And it was scary because he was an intimidating-looking doctor guy. And he says, "Come with me." And then as we're walking to his office, he said, "I'm Dr. Jay Schaubin. I'm with the Florida Poison Information Center Network." He said, I need a data science study to show the efficacy of how efficient or how valuable the value that the poison centers deliver. And so he engaged us with that. It turned out to be a very, very good project, very, very successful. And then he just started introducing us, championing us and doing those things for references. And all of a sudden you got UF Health as a reference, and it really, really, really helped us a lot. To this day, we keep in touch with him. We're now in 14 of the 54 poison control centers in the U.S. with models running and all this stuff. So we kind of trace it back to that one meeting.
One moment, yeah.
Which was scary.
Yeah. And you all have worked with, different kinds of clients. You haven't just limited yourself to, healthcare or IT. I mean, you've worked with different kinds of clients and done different kind of projects. But what I've also noticed, just kind of like being a fly on the wall or just kind of watching as the company's growing, I noticed that you all were also very focused on supporting nonprofit organizations, for-profit companies. They're able to leverage a lot of their data, but nonprofit organizations are having a little bit more trouble like adjusting to these kind of new realities. But NLP Logix has been, also, right in the mix, really trying to support those organizations. And so tell me more about like what's the origin of that? How did that kind of like come about? I mean, you're doing work that's for the public good, right? But really that connection to our community and connection to our nonprofits.
Yeah. So I like to tell this story. It's true, which most of my stories are not, but in this case,
but they're all funny.
So when we started the company, that's just three dudes, none of whom know anything about accounting. I mean, zero, zip. And so we knew we had to set up the books because someday we thought we might be able to send someone an invoice and then receive cash back. So we had to be ready for that. Now, we were about a year ahead of time setting everything up before that blessed event ever happened. But it was a gal by the name of Dina Vickers who worked with us at the previous company at MDI. And we said, "Hey, Dina, we need you to set up the books." And she said, "Okay, I'll do that." So she spent a solid, probably about a week setting up the books. And then she trained my wife who, took classes. She actually took classes here at UNF for a couple days on QuickBooks. Yeah, absolutely. And so at the end, we said, now, we didn't have any money. And so we said, "Hey, Dina, we got to pay you something." And we were hoping she would say, "Oh, don't pay me," whatever. And she didn't say that. But what she did say was she said, if you guys ever make it, if you guys are ever survive, and oh, by the way, there's a 90% chance you're not going to make it because most startups never make it. She said, I want you to donate to the Humane Society. So anything that you would pay me, give to the Humane Society.
Okay.
So needless to say, over the years, we've fed a lot of puppy dogs.
Yeah.
And it all goes back to Dean. And then after that, we were like, hey, if we can give back, that kind of sparked the wanting to give back to the community. And then
Interesting.
and then you got DSSG.
Yeah,
Yeah,
then DSSG,
right,
we
that
came in
corner,
there.
yeah. Good. All right. So that is interesting. Let's get into other things. So now you started working in different industry, profit, and I'm pretty sure these challenges are very different for each of them, right? So in general, talk about your biggest technical, logistical, or ethical challenges that you guys have to face as you've pursued this ingraining data science solutions into organization structures.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say, over the 13 years, I would say the challenges have changed over time. So nothing's constant. Kind of like I alluded to, I think in the beginning, the challenge was just answering the question, like, what do you do? I think now that it's kind of the
More
reverse.
easier to answer. Yeah.
I think some of the challenges are the expectations are very, very high sometimes. And so I think across the board, I think one of the biggest I always go back to two challenges, and I think they're interesting because I don't really think of them necessarily technical challenges. But I'd say the repeated challenges are one is solving the right problem with the right technology. So, I don't think it's actually easy to identify the right problem.
Okay.
It's not always obvious. And then the right technology is also not easy as well necessarily. And separately, I think and it's actually something I think that, we value quite a bit as an organization, and that's communication. So, we've got incredibly, we got the best team ever. And, some of the brightest people. And, if you can't communicate those ideas clearly and effectively, then they're just ideas. They don't get executed on. And, we laugh with Katie Bakewell. You guys all know Katie Bakewell.
Yeah.
She's fantastic. You want to talk about community give back and people
Yes.
caring a lot about other people, and her backyard is Katie. But, when she started at the business 12 years ago,
Yep.
is that right?
Yeah.
She was like, I'll join as long as I don't have to go and talk to people.
Right.
And if you know Katie, right, you know that is amazing because all she does is talk. But she connects with people and she articulates, very well. And I think that she's been, and the rest of the team have all kind of followed that lead of, we got to communicate. We need to, if you can't communicate, it just makes things, extra challenging. So I think those are kind of the two of the things that I would say.
So what about I know you talked about the problem solving thing and communication, the combined effect of getting the buy-in for the organizations. I know initially it was an issue. Probably right now, how much is the issue now? And how is about the contracts, making deals in that sense? How easy has it got now? I know initially those were big challenges, right?
Yeah, it was very difficult at the beginning.
Yeah.
And I'd say just like Matt said, it's flipped. So now people are calling us and saying, hey, you guys have been doing this a long time. Literally got a call this morning. Hey, we've got a data problem. I need something done. I need it fast.
Okay.
Last Friday, we were in San Antonio meeting with a customer. Hey, we got a data problem. We need it fast. In their case, they need it really fast. And it's gotten easier as more of the word has gotten out.
Right.
And it's really it's a tribute to the team, that to solve this many problems over the years and the experience that has gotten. People just know they're they know to call us if there's a real gnarly data challenge is what we like. We don't get the easy ones. We'd like a short putt every now and then. But I don't know if we've ever gotten
I don't
one.
know. It doesn't feel like it.
Right. But expectations are tough. I remember we had one customer who's still they've been a customer like 8 years, 9 years. And they're in the debt recovery space. And so we we score the probability that someone will pay a debt. And then we were in a meeting, and he's like, okay, you're telling me who probably will. Just tell me who won't.
Mm-hmm.
And then everybody left as those that will. And we're like, well, if we could do that, we probably wouldn't be here.
Right.
Because we'd be sipping a drink with an umbrella somewhere else.
Yeah.
So that it's an expectations thing that gets a little bit tough sometimes.
Yeah.
But that reminds me of kind of the same thing. We had a customer. He his algorithm. We were classifying things, and it had to be 95% accurate. And we're like, great, we got this. We can do that. And that's what the contract said. That's what we did. And then we got into it, and he's like, well, and this is a binary classification problem. And he says the same thing. He says, well, wait, I need it to be 95% accurate, but you also have to tell me when it's wrong. So that's the communication part, right?
Yeah.
But from a customer standpoint who doesn't live,
Right.
in the
field,
world,
Right.
it doesn't, you got to be able to articulate that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So good SLA still very, very matters, and all of our service level agreements matters a whole lot for managing these kind of piggybacky issues and keep on adding and piling and changing the scope. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we call it moving the goalpost.
Yeah.
We have a very good
Yeah.
friend who's up in Wisconsin that, up in Wisconsin, goalposts are on rollers. But he works with us now. He's a great teammate.
Yeah.
And when he hears this, he's going to laugh. He's going to know exactly what we're talking about.
Yeah.
I suck your reference here. Right?
Yeah, and it's really like like initially what you were talking about is that people really didn't understand like what could you possibly do, and then now it's like really a growth in imagination, right? It's like people are now understanding more of the power of what machine learning, AI, data science, what it can do. And so now they're starting to imagine things that maybe aren't quite possible, but still it's good that there's an imagination there. It's good that there's some dreaming going on, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And all the LLMs and everything like that help get the creative juices going. And it's not going to ultimately, from the business standpoint, it's going to get you. I think Matt always likes to say, "Hey, I'm starting on second or third base," which is great.
Yeah.
And then you got to get someone that's going to have to hit that base hit, or hopefully sometimes a home run that'll get those runners in.
Or last mile, sometimes we call it.
Last mile.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So as we think about like what's next and how things are growing, things are changing very rapidly. And, we have a lot of our listeners out there, our viewers, our community. They're really interested in knowing how to get involved in this area. And so as someone who, directs a company that's right in the middle of that space, what advice would you have for people that are looking to learn more and to grow in this area?
Yeah, I mean, so I'll say one thing, which would be, in my opinion, if you feel like you've missed out on AI or something, I would just keep in mind, like this is like the first or second inning. Like this is, we are really just getting going. So I would say, don't have that fear of you're missing out on something. You can dive in right now, and you can, find an area that you're passionate in. There's a lot of, sometimes you call it AI quicksand, where it's like every day everything seems to be re-released and it's brand new and you're already behind. But I would, pick your area, have some patience, keep in mind that the game is still early. And then I also think that there's new areas that are opening up of like really fertile areas. Well, one, I think, is that, we've kind of, we talk about LLMs and generative AI. It's like, it's almost becoming so easy to create things that it's actually the harder part now is to understand if it's any good.
Yeah.
Right.
So I think especially in enterprise software, I think the quality and the testing and the processes, there's just whole new areas that I think are super ripe. And, in some regards, sometimes I think we get so excited about being able to create things that the quality, like there's things that we just haven't quite got to yet that I think are really interesting areas and really ripe for just digging in and focusing on and maybe even building a career around.
Yeah.
Can I throw a few more things in?
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
I look at it. So that's on the technical side. And I look at it more because I contribute nothing on the technical side, but is more if you're kind of just getting into the workforce. Couple pieces of advice. Number one, work somewhere where you have to deal with the public. You have to talk. You have to communicate. You guys know Ben Webster, right? He's
Ben.
great guy. Ben. Well, Ben sold cell phones by the seashore, and so he worked at the Verizon wireless zone. And I would watch him interact with the clients, and I'm like, my God, this guy's great because there's give and take, and he's talking, and he changes his inflection and in his voice when he's talking to older folks like me, or he's talking to kids, and just that human side of it, because that is such an important part of data science. I went to quite a few years ago. My daughter graduated from college, and a pretty senior guy from a big company gave a speech, and I'll never forget it because it was so true. He said, when I graduated from college, he was an engineer, aeronautical engineer, and he said that I could get away, I could move up just by my smarts, just by me being smart, brute force. I'm smarter than the next guy. And he said, in today's world, it really doesn't work that way. You have to be able to work in teams. You have to be able to work with other human beings, because things are more complex, right?
Yeah.
You have to kind of piece those things together. And I never forgot about it. And, our mantra is data science is a team sport.
That's right.
We have a lot of different personalities and everything. But the one thing we look at is, how do those people interact with others? There's a common theme with all of our employees. And, when folks interview, sometimes you can just tell. It's like they're like, I just want to work from home. I don't want to do whatever. And it's like, well, get out of the house, man. Go interact with people. You might learn something from someone. So
and that tagline, data science is a team sport, I think was really influential for us, as we were thinking about our data science for social good program.
Yeah.
I mean, we do interdisciplinary teams, and just that mantra, data science is a team sport, data science is a team sport. It's something that we try to live, but
and you guys do. You guys really do. It's really, you have like psychology majors, working with, math and stats folks, working with, you guys embody it, and look at the value that it brings.
That's right. Yeah. It's really good value. But, that not everyone comes to the data science and AI game really having a good appreciation of that perspective. And so it's great kind of, working with you all and feeding off of that energy that you all are bringing to that.
Okay, good. Yeah, let's shift gears to the next question. So what's on horizon for you guys for NLP Logix on data science, AI work-wise into the future?
Are you creating robots? So it's like, is that the next thing? Sorry, humanoid robots, is that going to be your next production?
No, I love Matt gives a great speech about when he trains and mentors our people about how model training and things are going to evolve over the next year or two, or what you see coming down the pike from a tech standpoint.
Yeah. So, easy to put opinions out there, but I think that, and it's actually something that I think is really exciting, especially if you're trying to get in this area where, the last, probably, if you go right before ChatGPT was launched, if you took the decade before that, if you wanted to go and build, do something with AI, what did you have to do? You had to go find a data set, label some data, train some algorithms. Those weren't any good. Here's more algorithms. Where do I run this at? It was this, we call it at work a shadow code base, because it's this whole code base and process that is really to create a model. It's just to create something that then you'll integrate into your production process. So it's like this shadow code base that maybe doesn't get talked about enough. And I think that now with things like language models, foundation models, you're seeing the same thing in the vision space. I think if it was Google, had like a foundation model for forecasting. So, I don't know how good it is, but the concept, right? I think the concept of what we would call at our office, like inference only. You get to jump straight. You get to not have to worry about the shadow code base, and you go straight to using a model. And language models are great. You can do some prompt engineering, and you can maybe get 80 or 90% of the way there with something out of the box. You can prove the value. You can prove the use case out, and you can start faster. You can move faster, and you can maybe. You get to success or failure. Sometimes it's good to like eliminate something and go back and say, you know what? No, we got to go train something from scratch because this requires it.
Okay.
So yeah, we get kind of excited because I think that it's just a whole new horizon, a ripe area, and a way I think for a lot of our customers to get to value quicker and cheaper. There's new options that just weren't available. Maybe in the last decade.
So you think that steps from data to the model generation is being automated and we keeping it in that sense, or you feel like even those steps are not automated, it's being done on the fly by the LLMs?
I guess what I mean is that the whole concept of few shot and zero shot I think is really applicable as a first place to start for some processes.
Yes.
And I think, the way we look at it is, as opposed to starting from training a model from scratch and working your way up, why don't we start from what if we can't train a model and we just have to use something foundationally?
Yeah.
And then if that doesn't work, well, then what if we had to fine tune something and work your way backwards? I think what you'll find is you might not end up we need a whole shadow code base and build something specific. You maybe can stay at the top level for a while.
Yeah, and you might have to kind of drill down. Like eventually you might find that oh yes, eventually, okay, yeah, we see that this is working so well, but then we need to kind of go back and do some more.
Fine tune. I'm trying to think in metaphor sense, right? It's like the web, how it involved, right? So we code in HTML, CSS, right? But then that's how we were building website. Then if we forget all of the dynamic stuff and we just focus on simple publication of websites, I don't know how many really write HTML, CSS, right? Even though that is what the browser sees it.
Right.
But we use content management systems. Right. But that doesn't mean I can't go and change HTML, CSS that content management is generating, right? I could choose to go and edit a specific page, a specific CSS.
Right.
So it's possible, right? What you're saying, it could be like that. Like before, I need to have my content. I need to know all of the pages I need. And then I'm going to write the code. You're just saying now, but if we know the content, we can use content management system to publish the site. Anyone can do it.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, very similar. Doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah.
But it works for a lot of use cases.
Yeah. So in that sense, LLMs and other generative varieties, whatever that may be the future holds, could be used to, if model is good and we know this type of data could work, all of those preparation process can be eliminated or reduced time-wise, and they can just produce the results.
I think it goes back to what you were saying about right tool, right problem, right tool. Get those together,
Exactly.
And that's where you have the win. So, I'll take us kind of like a step back and 1,000-foot view for a minute and say, okay, we all have, challenges. We all have things like in the work that we do and just in our daily lives. And so if there was, something you dream about in terms of like making your life easier or, things working out for the best when it comes to AI and data science, what would those things be if you're just dreaming now? And it could be something like business oriented, or it could be something personal.
Yeah, I think on the business side, just seeing the tools get better and better and seeing the team get more and more efficient and turning things around faster for customers because there's so much value there because we eat our own dog food. I mean, we're using the heck out of this stuff. And so seeing from a business standpoint, just seeing things happen faster and more efficiently to me it's extraordinarily exciting. I think at a bigger macro level and everything, I'd like to see the U.S. be more proactive in data science. You know, from a military standpoint, from a national, world leadership standpoint. I feel like we're slipping a little bit, and I'd like to see a little bit more of a concerted effort, and maybe some of the folks in Washington look outside the Beltway to maybe even a city like Jacksonville and say, hey, maybe there's a data science team down there that could maybe help out with some things that it's half selfishly, but the other half is like, hey, we have competitors. Like, we're on the world stage, right? And so we can't get complacent as a country. And I'd like to see us, take the lead there.
Yeah, good point. Good point.
I'm
Matt?
probably just got canceled by.
That's all right. No one at this table. Yeah, I mean, at the super macro level, I think what would be good would be, I think at the end of the day, I think NVIDIA needs some competition. I think that that would be good for everybody, period. I am not personally on Facebook, but I hope that Meta gets rewarded for what they're doing for pushing open source. I do like how they're more transparent than anyone else, and I don't think a future is great for us where NVIDIA creates all the chips and Google and Microsoft and Facebook, I guess, have the only language models in the game. I think that it would be good for everybody if there was strong open source competitors, which there are, but because Meta is so open, and I think, I think at the hardware, there will be some innovation because of, there just has to be, I think, at that level. So,
yeah, monopoly is not good for us as the U.S. and not good for the global too. Yeah, and going to what Ted said, I think, each government themselves have a data science team, like local levels, state level, and federal level. I think that if they themselves see it, then it will help the governments and the representatives to change their dialogue and their thinking, I think. That could help.
Yeah, I would also say, though, 12 years ago, my dream would have been that we're all here today talking about AI, right?
That's exactly right.
It's like if you when we're out trying to, peddle machine learning and explain to people why we need clustering and
I know. Yeah, everyone.
What's a cluster?
Yeah, I'll tell you what's a cluster.
We were a cluster.
Yeah.
No, that's a great point. You look back and you're like, it's been quite a ride, and you can't rest on your laurel. You got to constantly be pushing and and going and 13 years ago, would we be sitting in a podcast here having you guys ask us these questions? It's kind of cool. But hey, it takes everyone. You guys have been great supporters, and we really appreciate it. And allowing us to support your guys' organization, which is growing, and whatever we can do to help out, we're there.
Yeah, on behalf of Florida Data Science for Social Good, we just really appreciate you all and the role that you've played in helping our organization just grow and flourish. It's been just a wonderful relationship and a wonderful partnership. So appreciate NLP Logix and appreciate your whole team. I mean, you've got, how many times has Katie Bakewell, saved our skin or, helped us out, or Ben, really coming in a clinch and really helping us out.
So here's a stat, and I know we're getting ready to sign off, but so we have 130 team members. Yeah. We have 80 that are here in Jacksonville. Over 30% of our employees graduated from the University of North Florida. Wow. And over half of our employees graduated from a Florida institution, whether it's JU, Edward Waters University, UF, FSU, UCF, USF. Like we've got Flagler. We have our HR, Laura LaMontagne.
Okay. Nice. Yeah.
She's a Flagler saint. She's going to love that we said this. So.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for being here. And if you're watching us online, be sure and subscribe. Keep up with us and send us some comments. Let us know what you think. Who do you want to see us? What kind of topics you want us to talk about? And we'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thanks.